Hey guys, it's Olivie Blake, and this is me not writing. This is going to be very, very thrown together because someone recently pointed out to me that it's been a long time, which is something that a conclusion I could have come to on my own, but I didn't. So anyway, here we are. I have some really exciting news today. At the time I'm filming this, the news is tomorrow, which is also partly why we're here. And so you may have already seen that, but you know, I'll get there. So it's been a long time. We're just gonna, I honestly don't know what we're gonna do, but hopefully, you know what? I'm here, you're here, we did it. Let's see, I brought a pile of things to show you. Let's see. One of which is my Luminaries arc. The Luminaries is coming out soon, I believe. I think it comes out like around the time that Paradox comes out. And anyway, I got a chance to read it. It's amazing. I also got a chance to read All of Our Demise, which is the second book in the Villains duology, the one that starts with All of Us Villains, All of Our Demise. And these two, I'm connecting them in my head. Specifically because if there's like a hole in your heart where like a boy wizard used to be, I think you're going to especially like these books. They're not like that in any way, really. They just have this like world that you want to see yourself in kind of the same way that you might have with the wizards. But yeah, I keep telling everybody I'm a Monday, which is important here. And I haven't yet picked which family I would be part of if I were in the All of Us Villains world. I think like technically you probably shouldn't want to be one of them. But yeah, I mean, it's hard not to. It's a really cool magic system. Anyway, so recommend that. Put that on your list. Both are YA. And, you know, so also in the boy wizard hole in my heart, I've been sort of like trying to revisit older fantasies, things that I do remember reading that I'd forgotten about. Things like ENCHANTED, which was like my favorite book as a kid, and for some reason I completely forgot about it. And also this book, which is getting a re-release, The Thief by Meghan, Whalen, Turner. But this is one that I know I read, and I'm really excited to reread. It's something about revisiting my youth, I suppose. I have also received my Alone with You in the Ether Galley, which is really, really exciting. This is what the spine looks like. So this is an arc. So it's not the finished copy. Obviously, the finished copy is going to be a hardcover. So about Alone with You in the Ether. Okay, let's be real. I know that there are people who are not happy about the change in the cover. Let me just tell you that, like, obviously no one is more sad than me that there's a different cover. I mean, just for like nostalgia reasons, I designed that cover, and obviously it was very sad to let it go. But I just have to be very clear that, like, I don't own the book anymore. I own the words inside of it, and that's it. And I don't mean to, like, I don't want to say that in a disparaging way. I just really need to get that across to you guys. To some of you, probably not the people who are watching this, because the people who are watching this listen to me talk all the time and are probably tired of hearing me say it. But at least now I have a shorthand for when people ask again. Tor owns this book, so I cannot sell you, I don't have any other copies of the original paperback, but even if I did, I couldn't sell them to you, nor can I re-release that cover because Tor owns the book. And this was the trade-off, obviously, with going from self-publishing to traditional publishing. People always treat it sort of like, oh, getting traditionally published from self-publishing is like no matter what, it's a win. But obviously there are some costs and benefits, and one of the costs is the creative ownership. I don't own it, but that also means that I don't own the necessity to produce it, which was starting to be the problem. That I've actually seen a lot of like more recently printed copies of it, and it just got worse and worse and worse the more times it was printed. I don't know what happened. Like, no one can even decide what color the cover is because all the ones I've seen recently have been very, like, something's distorted about them. Like, something went downhill with the printing. So, you know, I wanted better distribution. I wanted it to reach the people who wanted it. There was an access problem. And I wanted you to have the things you want, the hardcover, the audio, all that stuff. Also, we're casting for the audiobook, and it's really exciting. For those of you who have read the book before and happen to know who the final narrator is, that person is also going to be present. in the audiobook. But yeah, all of this is an aside. The point is that, like, yeah, it was kind of hard to see a cover that's very different from my original cover. But this looks beautiful on my bookshelf. It really does. My SFF shelf is predominantly black spines, so this one really stands out, and it looks good. Even I had a little bit of doubt, but seeing it in the flesh, it's a beautiful book. And I can't sell it to you, and I don't have any. I really don't. It was printed on demand, which means that, like, when you ordered the book is when it was printed. There aren't like huge stockpiles that I'm sitting on somewhere. I don't have any. So, which is why I've been avoiding my DMs, because lots of people will come in with their like sob story. No offense, like truly, it's sob worthy, and I can't do anything. So I've just stopped reading them. Yeah, and then I don't know what this is. What is this? That's my only copy. I gave away all the US ARCs, and then thankfully I got a UK one, so I get to have a copy for me and myself. Okay, I have written to myself, note on why I can't sell you paperbacks. Yeah, so it's not just true for Alone With You in the Ether, it's true of all of the paperbacks that are now like entering their tour books afterlife. I don't have extra copies, and even if I did, I couldn't sell them to you. Like I cannot re-release them unless Tor decided that they want to, in which case I am not the person to DM about it. Not that I don't love hearing from you. Also, a note on pirated paperbacks. So now that you can't get my original paperbacks anymore, there are people pirating them. So here's what you're buying. If you see a paperback and it says it's new, that is almost 100% pirated, because none of them are new. They're all used to some extent. They were purchased by somebody else. I know some people are reselling them. That's fine. But if it says it's brand new, that's not authorized, I guess is the word I'm going to use there, because they are no longer being printed by anyone. That is why you can't find them. And yeah, and so just know when you're buying these pirated books, I understand that there's kind of like, there's some clout associated with having one of the original paperbacks, but it doesn't exist to me if you buy a fake version. Because basically what that is someone printed out an EPUB and slapped an incorrect cover on it. The pirated books I have seen, the crimes against typography that they are, it's so disheartening to be tagged in them. Like, please don't tag me in something that's clearly a pirated version of my cover. It makes me so sad. You can have it if you want. Do what you want. You are paying at least 3 to 4 times more than I ever charged. And none of that is going to me, which again, like, if you don't want to send money to me, that's your choice. You buy whatever you want. It's just like, we know they're not real, and somebody is making money off of a thing that shouldn't even cost money, basically. But you know what? Whatever. Capitalism. I also wanted to add, so anyway, just be careful when you're trying to buy a paperback from a source that isn't vetted. So essentially not one of my publishers. Also a note on merch. I think it's so cool that you want to have Atlas 6 merch. I really do. But all of that is essentially copyright violation. Because actually, it's not Tor who owns, one second, I gotta tell my husband something. It's not Tor that owns the right for merchandising. It's actually Amazon, because they're the ones who are making the TV show. But I have definitely brought up that there are some things I'd want to see. Like, someone suggested a Naima crew neck, which is amazing. And if those of you have read book 2, I won't actually say the merch, but it's a similar item that I would also want to have. But yeah, so just keep in mind that if you buy something that is like the Atlas 6 from a bookish company, there are lots of, small businesses on Etsy that make things like that. They're a violation of copyright. The only thing that isn't is if you buy from Little Kimura's Redbubble, because that's her art. So yeah, sorry, that was a real bummer. So So here's some fun stuff, as I've been talking for already way too long. So the big announcement is the One for My Enemy cover has been revealed, which I think is super cool. This is a tattoo that I've had for many years, and it looks a lot like the cover, so that's very funny to me. The links and stuff, you should really see it on my social media somewhere, because the video that Tor made to go with it is really good. It's so good. Yesterday I was like, I have a hot announcement, like purely because that little clip was so hot. It's very vibey. Anyway, that cover is out. So it's hardcover. Originally, I think I said it was going to be paperback, but I was wrong. Hooray! So it's hardcover. It's going to be on like pearlescent white stock, and then with red foil, which is really cool. Lokmora is of course doing new artwork, which is really exciting. It's going to be the same thing with Atlas, where you see a version of, in black and white in the book, which is really cool. And then also she's probably going to do additional like digital art to circulate. And then I also got the opportunity for both One for My Enemy and Masters of Death to work with other artists for the end pages. We wanted to make these books, since they're being released, feel like extra special. So the end pages for One for My Enemy are by lasq.draws, Laura. She's amazing. Her Atlas 6 art is just gorgeous. And as soon as Tor asked me, is there anyone else you'd want to work with? I was like, absolutely. I want to see what Laura does for One for My Enemy. So really, really excited about those end pages. The art is, I've only seen sneak peeks so far, but it's beautiful. And you're gonna die when you see Lokmora's stuff. I say that every time, but like, she ups it every time. And I am not telling you yet who the artist is for Masters of Death, but you could probably narrow it down if you thought, who's made really hot Atlas 6 fan art before? Someone might pop into your head. Yeah, so One for My Enemy is coming out April 4th, 2023, and Masters of Death is coming out August 8th. So yeah, we are currently working on the cover for Masters of Death. So far, I really love it though. Like normally when I get sent comps, I like them a lot of times, but I usually have like a strong favorite and a lot of notes about like, could we do this? Could we do this? But I loved all the ones for Masters of Death. And there was one that was like, if you go with that one, that one, if you posted it today, I'd be happy. So yeah. Craft question. Do you ever get a bit far removed from a project by weeks or months because life happens and then find it hard to get back into writing the story even though you want to and know what to write? No. Because I'm a pantser, I almost never know what I want to happen next. Although, this did happen. This happened to, what is her name? Gillian Flynn, the author of Gone Girl. I remember reading that. So she turned in her pitch for Gone Girl, which was like the first 10 pages or something. Like she wrote the beginning of it. And then she got pregnant and had a baby and sat back down with it and had no idea what she had planned for it, which makes sense because pregnancy like just kills your brain cells. And but she ended up writing Gone Girl, so okay. Tips on breaking through that. Whenever I feel stuck, it usually is because I can't make something work. Like there's something that I want to happen and it's just not happening. And that's the point when I usually throw away my notes and just go with what I feel. Which I don't know if you're accustomed to writing that way, but I feel like usually when there's a problem, it's like a step back. So I will, do that. Step back a little in the narrative. Where are we? What feels like it should come next? Just throw out what you had in mind, because you might end up there anyway. But I think it's just when you think of it as your end point, it gets a little bit like claustrophobic and it's a little like you're letting a past version of yourself down. So try to just write something that feels like it should come next. Like atmospherically feels like the next scene should be this. And I would be very surprised if that doesn't help you. Someone said, I didn't immediately get that you meant writing craft and thought you meant crafts like macrame, and now I want your craft recommendations for Halloween and fall. I don't really craft. I have no idea how to do any macrame Also, I associate it with houseplants, and I can't keep plants alive. But I will think on this. I feel like I do think there's going to be more videos before we get into like Halloween and fall and stuff. I do know that I am writing, because I know because I pitched this, I am writing an article for the Tor Forge blog that's about like what your Halloween plans should be based on your favorite trope. So I feel like one of those is going to involve crafts. So we'll come back to this. Desired tangent, what is your favorite ice cream flavor? Oh my God. Okay, so I really like peppermint ice cream, like especially old-fashioned peppermint. And I really like this one ice cream, what is it called? Savannah Buttermint from Jenny's. And I used to like, I once walked 3 miles just to get this ice cream. That's how strongly I feel about it. It's a seasonal flavor. It's only available during the summer. So, but now, so I live in a different place now where I could, even if I walked 3 miles, I still wouldn't reach a Jenny's. So instead we drove 30 minutes to get to our nearest Jenny's, only to be told that it's no longer summer. This was earlier. This was like the beginning of August, maybe. And they were like, oh, that's a seasonal flavor. And I was like, I know, that's why I'm here. And they're like, oh no, summer's over. And I was like, according to who? So yeah, I ended up having to like, one of my like biggest purchases this year was buying ice cream from Jenny's, because it's like $20 just to ship it, obviously, because it's ice cream. And it felt so insane to do that, but it was the only way to get it. So it's my little treat to myself. I'm stuck editing. I'd love to hear what your process is with a finished manuscript on how to get it to where the words feel done. So I actually have a post on this that I think might be more helpful to you. I use a 4-draft process. When I finish writing, I spend about a week just meditating on where I think the plot holes are and what needs to be done to fix everything substantively. So I spend like a week just living mentally in the like book world and thinking what else needs to be done. There's a lot of like, you know, listening to music that relates, talking about the book to other people, especially the places where I feel things might be weak, just kind of like bouncing off of someone. And then I sit back down and I fix those things without rereading the draft. I just fix what I perceive as plot holes, fill in the plot holes. So it's all just like, at that point, I'm just adding words. So I just did this with the 3rd Atlas book, which I finished over the summer. So I drafted in 4 weeks, and then it took me another 4 weeks to edit. And that process was 1 week of just meditating, 1 week of just filling in plot holes, just fixing things that felt like they weren't constructed very well, things that I needed to improve in terms of the narrative arcs or the, you know, plot sequence. I rearranged a lot of things, and then spent 2 weeks starting from the beginning, reading through to the end, just making sure that everything felt right. And at that point, sent it off to my editor. So what you might need is someone to read it, because so that to me, that is considered one revision. Even if I weren't working with an editor, I would still have 3 more revisions. So my first revision is substantive. My second revision is style. That's where I cut out what doesn't feel necessary and work on elevating the language. And then I guess technically there's 2 reads for that, but in between I usually have somebody read it. And then which in some cases is another writer friend, some cases it's my husband, just because I want to be able to talk to someone who has an idea what the story is, and then just typos and stuff. I don't think you ever feel done. I never feel done. Like when I was self-publishing, I never felt like something was perfect. It was just kind of like, well, I have to release this. The thing with self-publishing is you like establish a pipeline, so people always have more to come back to, which means that you don't have forever to luxuriate in your own doubt, which is helpful. And then with traditional publishing, you have deadlines, so no luxuriating there either. But yeah, it sounds like maybe you need someone else to read it, or take a break, work on something else for a little while, take a week, come back to it. I think that is it for, you know, viable conversation topics. Someone else asked me about having like lots of open ideas and kind of bouncing around, which isn't something that I typically do. I learned recently, I consider myself a very focused person and very like self-motivated. And I was explaining to my therapist how I motivate myself. And she told me, ooh, I didn't realize your OCD was so bad. So I don't know. I don't think that's helpful. But essentially, yeah, I'm just a big believer in like, a lot of writing is hard. A lot of writing is unpleasant, and a lot of publishing is filled with rejection, and like this process can become very unfun very quickly if you want something from yourself that is just kind of creating a lot of anxiety. If none of your projects are doing it for you, it might be worth considering that you could just come back to them later and maybe try something that is interesting you. It also could be like, how many manuscripts have you finished before? Because this is something I talk about all the time, but you have to practice ending. So if you've never finished a full novel before and you have like, you know, 4 or 5 unfinished ones floating around, you need to pick one and finish it, not because it's like the thing that's most important in the world and is definitely going to be the thing that you put all your resources into, but because if you never finish a book, you'll never know how to finish a book. It's one of those weird like circular arguments where you just have to finish something so that you know what it's like. It's like running a marathon. You have to, well, no, that's not a good example because you definitely don't have to run a marathon before you run a marathon. Ignore that. I shouldn't use sports analogies. I really should not. You have to become accustomed to the feeling of having gone the full way. So yeah, so like if you have finished books in the past and you can't figure out which one of your ideas you like best, then maybe you don't like any of them right now and you can come back to one of them later. One thing I like to, you never want to become too precious about any one work, I think. My experience has taught me that because, well, look at my experience, right? My debut novel, which I'm gonna drop, this is my debut novel. This is not the book that people know me for. This is just a book that got me into publishing's door. And now, like, you know, books that I feel sentimental about that didn't go anywhere and were maybe disappointing in that sense, like Masters of Death, are getting a second chance. And obviously that's you know, very #blessed for this opportunity. But I think that the same thing, like, you get second chances if you know how to time things right. You kind of have to find the book that resonates with publishing, and then you can kind of do other things. There's a lot of ifs to this question because there's a lot of things that could be going on, but I think keep the process as enjoyable as possible because you have to love this if you want to keep doing it. Because otherwise it's just hard. It's just hard. Yeah, it's such a hard thing to pursue as a career or even as something that like you put a lot of your self-worth into, that it's really best if you keep it as fun as it can be. And like, the reason I caution against having a book of your heart is because a lot of people are going to tear apart the book of your heart. And also it may not be the thing that gets you in the door, but that doesn't mean you don't still get to publish it at some point. You just put it aside. Like what I'm trying to tell you is the chronology of being a novelist means that anything can become relevant again, including your unfinished ideas. But also because you are constantly evolving. Your heart is constantly changing. You know, like nothing I've written before the birth of my son could be considered the book of my heart because that is completely different now. Obviously, Alone with You in the Ether is the closest there will ever get. But, well, maybe not ever, but certainly the closest I've gotten so far. But I like to think that there's still an evolution coming. Which means that if you don't like your current ideas, maybe your next idea is a better idea. I also was talking about my publishing journey recently, and the fact that I queried my mechanical romance, and that is actually what got me in the door. So that's what got me my agent, and then when there was interest in the Atlas 6, I already had an agent to negotiate all of that for me with the interested SFF publishers. So I really needed her. It wasn't this magical thing that just like happened to me. But right before My Mechanical Romance, I had been querying a high fantasy, and I got a revise and resubmit on it. And at the time, I was sitting with the agent's comments, desperate for an agent, obviously, as we are. And I just didn't feel like I could do her comments justice. I just felt like I've got something better, I think. And so instead of doing the revise and resubmit, which I would have done, I just thought I had already written My Mechanical Romance at that point. And I was like, I think that this book is better. I'm going to bet on this book. And obviously that went really well for me, which doesn't mean that I'll never publish the high fantasy. You see what I'm doing here? Anyway, I think I've already been talking for a long time, but I'm going to check my Tumblr inbox anyway. Yeah, nothing that needs to be answered here. Someone had a very cute kiss. Love that. Oh, love that. Okay, I love romance. I love love. Someone asked, do any of my books take place in the same universe as each other? Not purposely, but Lil Kimura said that she thinks that One for My Enemy is something that happens in the same world as the Atlas Six. They're just witches, so they're not involved. Which actually, I think she's right about that. So, yeah, there's that. I do kind of think of Lev as the like Nico forerunner. Like Nico and Lev are very similar to me. It's like that was something that I was getting to. So yeah. Okay, well, I think that is all for now. I hope that you enjoyed the One for My Enemy cover. If you don't, please don't DM me about it. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that cover. Hope that there's been something worthwhile in here for you. But if there wasn't, I tried my best. I will be back. Partially because I have a lot of things to promote. I don't know if you've noticed, but the Alone With You in the Ether, the new release date is a week earlier. So now it's November 29th instead of December 6th. But anyway, so I'll be back. So if you have any questions, let me know. It probably won't be that soon, but I will be back. The Atlas 6 paperback is coming out very soon. I'll put that date here. And I think I might be doing some local events in LA. And then obviously we're still going to announce my Atlas Paradox tour, which is pretty big. So all of that is coming. Anyway, this has been me, Olivie Blake, and I'll see you next time.